Nicole, how are you?
Hey, Paul, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. You're back on, and we are talking about where the Sunshine Coast has evolved in early 2023. And a lot of people still want to move out there. A lot of
Mhm.
investors are interested in what's the opportunity there. But I think the boat has sailed in some ways in terms of return on investment and some incoming restrictions. But there are
Mhm.
some creative ways to still find a place on the coast that gives you rental income and that you can potentially use yourself. So you are blending together your desired quality of life and also making some money and covering some of your overhead expenses and mortgage. I'm an
Yeah.
investor. I'm going to go for a showing with you next weekend. I'm super optimistic about Airbnb being it. Doing all kinds of renovations, running retreats. It's going to be
Mhm.
glorious. I heard properties are like not that expensive and it's super free. That has changed. So walk us through like A, bringing us down to earth, and then what is the opportunity for an investor that really values quality of life and
Mhm.
finances?
Okay, awesome. We can talk about all that. So the coast has changed a lot in the last couple of years. We were undervalued probably 30 or 40 years. It was very easy to find a home up until May 2020 in the 500s. That has, of course, changed. Our average price is around 850, creeping up to 900. If you're looking at a home that already has, say, a secondary suite in it, then you're going to be looking at usually over $1 million unless it does need quite a bit of work or feels very residential, like right with your neighbors. So things have changed a lot in terms of there are not undervalued properties just sitting there that no one else has explored. And people are just coming in and discovering them for the first time. So, as an investor, as someone who's coming in, what I like to do is just make sure that I know exactly what the purpose of this home is for you. Is it straight cash flow? Are you just putting in tenants and rentals to some degree? Okay, great. If you are, then we are looking at the configuration of the home. We're looking at the type of renters you're putting in there. So, does it feel like a resort type setting that this house is in because you want to put Airbnb folks in? Or is it long term renters and we're wanting to go closer to schools and services, things like that? Those are two very different categories, right? We also
Mhm.
have to be mindful of zoning. There's a lot of zoning on the coast. And even though we can see a lot of big, beautiful properties that say, oh my gosh, this screams retreat and having guests in and just having these wonderful experiences, if those homes aren't zoned for it, that land's not zoned for it, you're going to be getting calls from your neighbors and your business is not going to be very viable. We have to really pay attention to that, right? Then, of course, the other thing is the actual cost to upgrade and maintain these properties. Some of them are large with a lot of infrastructure in them. If you are looking at something that is more of a retreat space, more for a multitude of guests, you're going to have a lot of extra costs associated with that. And so we break that down. If it's just short-term small rentals or long-term rentals, again, you're looking at a more obvious set of costs and it's an easier thing for us to estimate. And again, we're looking for what's the house configured like? How easy would it be to convert it to a two suite if there's only one? And how close is it to the services that people need who are going to live here full time? Does that sort of help you with the summary a little bit?
Yeah, love it. Definitely. So what I'm
Yeah.
gathering is essentially you kind of want to look at a place that can easily become a duplex, which you can fully rent out for X amount, or if you live in it part-time or full-time, you've got the other suite that's rented out. So let's talk about numbers. I think before our call you talked about potentially around the 5K mark if you've got kind of two suites, 2,500 each, or what are some numbers around, yeah, what you can expect on a monthly basis from, I guess, a yearly lease. But if you've got some numbers on like, if expats are in town and, usually you can charge 20 to 30% more if you're just going month by month. Like, what are some numbers there and yields to expect just with what you've seen?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're seeing sort of a 2 to 3 bedroom individual home going in the 2,500 to 3,000 range. Again, depending on the outdoor space, quality of house, etc. It can go up from there if you've got some special features. View is great, waterfront even better, pool, all that kind of stuff. But if you're looking at a standard home with what's considered an unauthorized suite, which is someone's put a suite in, it's not zoned for it, that's fine. The coast doesn't mind about that because we need that inventory for people. If you've got a standard home with a suite, you're probably going to be pulling in around 5,000 a month if you're putting in renters now. If you inherit a house with renters who had market values, and their rents were set back in the day, you're going to see a lot lower. And that's going to be a big challenge for investors as well. So, that sort of $1,400 a month range, which won't really help you a lot to cover your full costs. But if you were to tenant an entire home, say two suites, that's sort of roughly the the ballpark that you could be expecting to bring in for a month.
Yeah, I mean that makes perfect sense. And when rates are at a more, kind of normal stature, I mean,
Hmm.
like $5,000 will cover the mortgage in a lot of cases. Let's say you put
Hmm.
down 20% on $1 million place, right?
Hmm.
You'll cover it. And the
Yep.
important thing actually is that yes, even if you're not covering it exactly in terms of like your mortgage costs and everything else, and then like your rent yield,
Hmm.
the true cost to you is actually the interest portion of the mortgage,
Hmm.
right? The principal's
Exactly.
for savings, like that is equity. Isolate
Yep.
that. Even now, when rates are 5, 6%, just the interest portion, which could be about $3,500, right? And then
Hmm.
you've got your property tax, etc. That's what you're actually looking at. So it
Yeah.
can be very profitable if you break it down a bit more. And like that's a
Hmm.
pretty healthy yield.
Hmm.
Now on the term of like shorter term rentals, right? So
Hmm.
Airbnb, harder to do, not impossible. Is
Hmm.
what is the vacancy rate actually? If you know on, I don't know, a yearly lease. And again, if I want to maybe have this as a thing where people come monthly, quarterly, is there a market for expats to be on the island, or am I basically going Airbnb or a yearly lease? Realistically,
Yeah, I think you're mostly going Airbnb or a yearly lease. Expats find it particularly difficult. I have clients who want to do the try before you buy idea, and it can be very hard to find those homes for that 3 to 6 month period, right? People either want to know something is set it and forget it, they have a tenant, or they have a good system for Airbnb and they want to be generating that full-time revenue. And that does take time to build up. So having those kind of inconsistent chunks of time is not as appealing. I think we'll find that that's the toughest market to service right now. Airbnb has become more challenging in the last year and a half. It's become a bit of a hot topic over here because we're a small market, because those intro homes were being sold for Airbnb purposes. We've got a lot of attention around them now. So Town of Gibson's, Town of Sechelt have both really cracked down on the amount of business licenses that they're issuing for Airbnb. So that's something to be mindful of. Again, depending on where you're looking for an Airbnb property, it could be more difficult for you to actually be allowed to run it. The rural areas, higher up the coast, like further to the west up towards Powell River, those are areas where still it does feel one a little more resorty, a little more remote. Um, Less issues maybe with bylaw complaints and less people feeling like they don't know their neighbors. Those rental markets are a little more flexible for short-term rental.
What is the cost of business license? Do you have any idea? And like, what's the process? Like, is it like a long application process? Let's say you're in the middle of Gibson. Is it like you're just not going to get it, or is it like prohibitively expensive?
It's neither of those things. It's strictly a limit in the amount of them that they're offering.
Got it.
So yeah, it's a few $100s to
Okay.
apply, and it's a fairly simple process. It's all online, but at the same time, it's the fact that they're just not giving out many.
Yep.
And so Sechelt recently made the news last year saying that they were going down to 15 licenses. Now that hasn't actually panned out that way,
Hmm.
but that certainly is a departure from the 250 Airbnbs that they had running in Sechelt the year before. So significant decrease there.
Got it. And just looking forward, I don't know, 3, 5, 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
how is this city evolving? And are there any exciting announcements that maybe give a bit of tailwind versus headwind in terms of an investor getting excited about being there from a social perspective, but also from a financial one? Is there any like developments, or like where do you see the city, or is this going to keep shrinking, and be more of a NIMBY thing? Like what do you see as like the trend?
We see people really wanting to come up here, and whether they are investing for a vacation place that they love or they're coming up full time, it's really about investing in the lifestyle up here. And I think that we're seeing more and more is most of the improvements, most of the development being done is around maintaining the coast the way it is. So further distilling it to be this wonderful little pocket, this very relaxing, friendly place, but that has the conveniences we need to service all of the people who now want to be here as well. So another good thing for investors to pay attention to, and that I help walk them through a lot, is those official community plans, the OCPs that are on record. So when we're looking at a property, say in Gibson's, for example, that's the first town you come to when you get off the ferry, the official community plan allows for further development, and we can take a look at those properties and say, hey, right now there's just a single family home, but actually it allows for a duplex, and that duplex allows a suite per suite. So your property that you're purchasing now, yes, it may feel a little expensive, or you may be putting a little money into your mortgage on top of the rent you're getting, but you actually could have 4 suites in that place down the road. And that's, those are the types of things that
Mm.
really there is some amazing opportunity for people. It is a bit of a waiting game, maybe, or it
Mhm.
is something where you want to see, a little bit of time go by before you develop out that land fully, but it's there. And that will be that next level of appreciation for people who are getting into the market now, is that further densification, which we've already planned for. We just haven't done it yet.
Okay, so it isn't so the city does want to grow, basically, in the right way,
Absolutely.
I presume.
Yeah, and is aware that it's inevitable, and they have
Yeah,
they have planned for that, which is great. We've become a bit of a suburb. It's a 40-minute ferry ride from
totally.
Vancouver. So
It's so
that's
close.
a nice commute when you think about it. Yeah.
Love it. This has been super helpful, Nicole. What's the best way for people to reach out? And yeah, what kind of clients do you usually best jive with and work with?
I love clients who, well, mostly are just as curious about real estate as I am. It's the reason I'm in it is because I love it. So if you are keen and if you like the coast for the unique little animal that it is, I want to talk to you. Whether, this is your first rodeo or your 50th, I work with all folks in all different stages. They can get at me at nicolearnett.ca or at Nico Coastal Homes on Instagram, seems to be a popular one. And always happy to chat and answer questions for folks.
Fantastic, Nicole. You've been great. I really appreciate your time, and thanks for all the great info.
Good to talk to you, Paul. See you later.
Ciao.